Tak soy.
Welcome to CP101, and we are back with our first update on the Anubis kit by MRC. I've got all the holes drilled around the base here because we're going to punch this center out. I'll keep this piece after I punch it out because that gives us the template for the feet if I decide to put slots in the foam board base like the plastic base here. We'll have a pattern we don't have to figure out on the feet. But what I've done is I've taken my Dremel motor and drilled holes all the way around, and I'm taking my sprue cutters and I'll put my glasses on here and just going back and cutting all those, whatever is left we can get rid of with our Dremel drum sander as far as the nubbins that are left behind from this process. So I'm not worried about that. That's not going to be any big deal as far as what's left on the nubbins. So we're just going to go around here and cut in between these until we've punched center out. So I'm not going to sit here and do all these on camera, but you can see the direction we're going with this. So once I get this center cut out, then we'll be right back. Alright, we got the center cut out. As you can see, looks like kind of like a big giant gear. But we've got, we'll throw this in a box, as I said, and use it as a template for the feet. Our next step now is to take the Stargate and we'll put the drum sander that I have for my Dremel motor. We'll put that on, and then we'll get rid of all these little nubbins and kind of smooth the edges of the Stargate out. And we'll do that and be right back. And we're back, and we've got the Stargate cleaned up. We used a drum sander on this, as I said earlier. This is the size I used. It's a bit coarse, which is why we had some cleanup to do, but it did the job. Now, if you use one of these older Dremel motors, even at the slowest speed, it still turns pretty fast. This is a 5,000 to 30,000 RPM. So if you've never used one of these on plastic, you have to be really, really careful. And it takes a light touch to use, especially a drum sander bit on plastic, because you can pretty much, if you're not careful, burn through this plastic pretty fast, and you end up in an area where you don't want to go. So be really careful with Dremel motor and using one of these coarse drum sanding bits on plastic. But it can be done if you're just careful and take your time and without hurting the plastic. And it does make quick work of what would normally take forever the old-fashioned way. So, but once we got this all done with the Dremel motor, I went back and took some 400 and wet sanded inside here and smoothed it out a little bit more. Still got some places where I can feel it, but I'm not going to worry about it. The Stargate wasn't perfect, so it's smooth enough, and I think it looks good enough, and should be all good there on the Stargate. Got a pretty good camera view, I reckon. Huh? So we got that done. I got online. I looked at what color the movie Stargate was by watching some movie clips, and it was gray, almost gray, about this shade. Of course, it was weathered, so we can either leave it this plastic color, because it's pretty close actually in shade, and then just use a wash over this and get it kind of weathered up. But I'll decide when the time comes which we're going to do. Now, the next step is to either start building the base or working on the big guy here, Anubis himself. And I think we're going to work on Anubis himself, because a lot of guys always ask me about running electronics and models, and it's really easy. But I get asked that a lot on my Facebook page and through emails and PMs. And as I said, it's really not too hard. So what I've done is I've cut the two body halves off the tree. We have the front and back. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick a foot. We'll probably go with the right foot, I guess. It really doesn't matter. But we'll go with the right foot. Oh, maybe we'll go with the left. Yeah, we'll go with the left. So what we'll do is we'll take and put a little bit of a notch in here. Big enough a notch to run the wires through. And I'll be using this wrapping wire since I have so much of it. I got black and red. As you can see, this is a pretty small gauge wire, and so we don't need that big of a hole. And we'll run it through his foot and up the body and out the neck and onto the head. Alright, so I got the Dremel bit, or the router bit and the Dremel. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a little notch up here, and we're going to make a little notch down here. Alright, that's really all you need, notch-wise. You can always make the notch a little bigger if you felt you didn't make it big enough with your X-Acto blade, but that should be big enough for both of the wires to pass through. I'll clean it up a little bit. Oh, I guess I should do it on camera, huh? There, you can kind of hopefully see that. Not that big of a notch, but as I said, that's all we need to run the wires out. And then when we put the two halves together, you can kind of see how it makes an opening there. And same with the bottom of the foot. So it makes an opening for the wires. So that's done. Our next step is to cut some wire long enough. Better too long than too short. So we're going to take and cut ourselves a nice long piece of wire. So we don't need anything longer than that. So we got that. And we'll cut the red wire the same length. As soon as I can, there it is. Doesn't have to be exact or perfect. One could be a little longer than the other, ain't no big deal. Alright, so there's that. We're back and we've got the wires hot glued in place inside the body so they don't get pinched or get, damaged in the building process, and then the eyes not work. So you don't have to use hot glue if you don't have a hot glue gun, or if your budget doesn't allow it at this time. You could use Scotch tape, or basically you want to use anything that keeps the wires from moving around too much. as I said, because you don't want to get them pinched or broken, so especially wires with this small of a gauge. So we've got that done. Now our next step is to glue the body halves together, and we'll use rubber bands or whatever to keep the two halves good and tight together, and then we'll set this aside to let dry, and then we'll be right back. And we're back, and we've got him glued together. Got all these clamps on him. To glue them together, I used the old-fashioned tube glue. There were no register pins or locator pins or anything on this kit. It was just a flat-to-flat surface, which is really nice. I like that style better. I think you get a better fit. And if it did have locator pins, I would have cut them off anyway. But we first went over this with the tester's tube glue, and then any place that I missed with the tube glue that I saw the halves coming apart, I would hit it with the Tamiya thin to get it back down in there, and to get the glue back down in there, and then close it up with the clamp. So between the old-fashioned cement and the tester's thin, we got I think we got the body in good shape, and overall it was a pretty good fit considering a plastic kit from the 90s too. So it fit fairly decent. We'll still have some work to do, but overall it wasn't a bad fit at all. So we're going to let this dry, and then come back and take all the clamps off, and then I guess clean up the body a little bit, or we can put the head together and get the SMD in there, or LED, whichever I decide to use, and go from there. So that's it for now, and until the next update, take care and peace.